Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual open house for a new park on Green Lane at Harold Laurie Lane. I'm Keith Irish, the Ward 1 councillor, and I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Thornhill is such a well-established community that, unlike many of my colleagues on council who represent communities across Markham, there are not very many opportunities left for new parks in Thornhill, although that is changing somewhat with new developments such as this. So I'm quite excited actually to be here and to participate along with you in the discussion with the city's Parks and Open Space Development team and what they have planned for us today. We've all learned some interesting and valuable lessons, I think, during the pandemic, and one thing is very clear to most of us. We're tremendously grateful for our parks and open space and thrilled to have new ones coming along that we can soon celebrate and enjoy, like this one. So with that, I'll introduce the staff that are with us this evening and then turn it over to Stephen Tippett to walk us through the meeting. So those that are here, Stephen, who I just mentioned, is the Project Manager, Parks and Open Space Development. He's joined by Chris Alcar, who's the Project Coordinator for Parks and Open Space Development. Oksana Nugarutsa, who's the Project Coordinator. Haley Patel, who's the Coordinator for Planning and Urban Design. And Derek Lau, who's a landscape architect with a third-party firm called RK and Associates. And as well, joining us this evening is Lauren Patton, my executive assistant. Some of you probably know Lauren a little bit more than you know me. So I'll just turn it over to Stephen and away we go.
Thank you, Councillor Irish. And good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at this time in your day. And thank you for coming together. This is a panel presentation, an open house gathering where we're going to be presenting panels and really looking for input from the residents. As Councillor Irish had mentioned, my name is Stephen Tippett and I'm the project manager with our team here at Parks and Open Space Development. First, I really would just like to thank Councillor Irish for his continued support to bring this park forward and ensure that it does get developed for the residents in this area. I know that residents have been waiting for this park space for some time, and staff are here in front of you today to let you know that we are planning to hire a contractor and begin construction on this park this year. Parks and Open Space staff have been working alongside our hired landscape architect consultant firm, RK and Associates, to develop a recreational neighborhood park plan that is both aesthetically pleasing and functionally sound. Staff understand the challenges when developing this conceptual plan, as the demand for park facilities within neighborhoods is always so high. In consultation with the Integrated Leisure Master Plan, internal stakeholders, and residents as yourself at large, it's important that we continue to have these conversations so that we are truly delivering for the current and future needs of you residents. While we cannot place all facilities in every park, we will certainly do our best to determine the services, needs, and facilities of people of all ages. So before we begin showing the panels that the team has come up with, I'd first like to go over the open house structure for this call this afternoon. And before we begin, I would first like to discuss how this is going to run. I will be sharing the panels with you and describing the proposed location, conceptual layout, and providing contextual imagery for the future neighborhood park. Once the panels have been delivered, I will be opening up to questions. If anyone has a question or a comment, good, bad, either or, I would please ask that you message the chat box. Messages will be queued and questions will be delivered by Chris Alcar, who's the project coordinator for this project. For ease of reference, if everyone could kindly update your Zoom name to the name you registered under, it would be appreciated. And this will just help us get back to those individuals who require some additional feedback. To do this, simply right-click on the screen and click on the rename function. For those of you who do not wish to ask any questions or comments, that's quite all right. You'll be able to find a comment sheet available on yourvoicemarkham.ca/parks, and those will be uploaded tomorrow. I would kindly ask that if anyone who's interested in providing those comment sheets to email them to Chris Alcar by no later than June 29th. Comments will all thoroughly be reviewed and discussed with internal staff and our consultant team. and we will be posting responses to all comments and questions, as well as providing the finalized park plan on Your Voice Markham prior to advancing this into the design development and tendering stage. And this will be available in the week of the July 12th. In addition to this, park staff are currently reviewing for appropriate park names for this neighborhood park. And no, we will not be calling it Green Lane Park, which is just down the road, or Green Lane Park 2. For those who are interested, staff will also be uploading a link to the City of Markham a link from the City of Markham website on the building and park naming policy, which outlines the requirements when providing a name for a future park, if there is any interest of that. So with that said, I'd like to please, let's begin. So the first slide is really the location plan, as I'm sure most of you are aware. This park itself is located on Green Lane and Harold Lowry Lane as well. It is a 0.32 hectare of a site. It's surrounded by residential on the east, the south, and the west. And then we have a collector road, which is the Green Lane to the north. As you can see, the parkland around it is pretty sparse. And so what we would want to provide is the most service we possibly can on budget and obviously making it right for the community. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So here's the conceptual plan that the team has come up with. And the two main elements to this are the full basketball court and the junior and senior playground. There's also going to be a shade structure attached to the junior and senior playground, as well as a ping pong table just to the top end of this plan. For reference, this plan is orientated north to the left side. So I'm going to be referring it to the left side of this plan and the right side of this plan, the top and the bottom side of this plan. There's also going to be a number of seating furniture throughout the site with back benches. There's going to be a garbage and trash receptacle located at central location. There's also going to be a seat wall located along the junior senior playground, which adds another element of seating for the park itself. The whole park will be sodded, and you can see on the bottom end near the lay-by parking, where it's labeled existing parking, there are going to be some elements of berming within this park. And when we say berming, we're not talking about meters high. We're talking about 1 meters to 1.2 meters high. And really that has a lot to do with the program SEPTED, Crime Prevention Through Effective Design, and really adds another character to this park plan. So entering into the park off Green Lane, you'll first come to the basketball court, and on either side of the basketball court, there'll be a 1.2 meter high chain link fence. And that really is to offset any sort of balls that would sort of travel towards Green Lane and stop them from entering into the road. You'll then on the north-hand side, again, go through some seating, as well as the ping pong table and further seating as well, before you come down into the main spine and into the junior senior playground. One of the things that we looked at when we were determining the facilities for this park itself is number one, we look at the radius from adjacent parks as it refers to in the ILMP regarding playgrounds. And we really try to place playgrounds in parks of this size that are at least 400 meters from a neighboring playground and include a junior and senior facility. Now, within this facility, there's also going to be swing sets, which will be 2 belts, a bucket, and an accessible swing. And we'll get into those in the next slide that's coming up shortly from a perspective of a park that a playground that we're planning to move forward with. But playgrounds of this size are neighborhood level. They're about 350 to 400 meters in size. And they are going to, like this playground itself will have a fiber mulch, the wood chip mulch surfacing, as well as an accessible ramp leading down into the playground. The shade shelter itself is a relatively good sized shade structure. We have an image of something very similar that we'll show in the materials plan. But underneath that shade structure, we're going to be installing three 4-seat tables. One will be accessible with 3. And as part of those tables, one of the things we're trying to incorporate is also a little bit of extra added play to it. So there will be sort of chess and checker surfaces on top of the table itself, so that residents, if they're interested in bringing games, they can actually play on the table itself. Just to talk briefly about some of the setbacks that we looked at when we did this. For a very active facility like a basketball court, we really try and adhere to a 15-meter setback from roadways. And we do this for safety reasons. And as you can see with the location of this basketball court, it really is situated internal as the site as possible, but also as far away from the residential properties to the north or to the top and to the bottom as we could set this. Another aspect to this is also lighting. We will not be lighting this park. There will be a light cast from the shade structure, which will be an emergency light. It's really a photo cell, which will be go on and off as the light levels change during the day and then into the night. And so that provides a level of standard that we adhere to. But the park itself, like the basketball court, will not be lit. The pathways will not be lit in that regards. Just to get into, I guess, some more of the greenery. The large cedars that are there along the concrete, the orange concrete acoustic fence, those will be remaining. Those will be retained. We plan to add a number of coniferous trees all along that fence to really soften up the look of that fence, number one, and to also help mitigate some of the sound. The dark green area within around the top acoustic fence, that's all going to be a naturalized seed mix, which will include small whips, which is small plantings and shrubs, which will be a naturalized area which won't be fully maintained. All the lighter green areas, that will all be sod and that will be fully maintained. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this next slide shows the playground that we have envisioned for this park. It's the same color combo that we would like to go with. I know that there is a lot of green on the roadway for Harold Lowry Lane, but we would like to stick with this theme. We think it complements well with the neighborhood, as well as the darker colors of the posts, which will tie in nicely with the buildings. And what we're showing here is, if you can see on the image at the top left corner, you'll see the types of swings that we're going to be including in here. And as I'd mentioned, 2 belts, a bucket, that's where you could put the child, the toddler, and an accessible swing. This playground also has an accessible ramp leading to a large place area underneath, as you can see, the shaded shelter, and a number of other features like multiple slides. I believe we have 5 or 6 slides on here, as well as a number of climbers. We have panels for musical noise, some textural things, which really, I think this plan has really come together to fit quite nice within the space itself. So let's go to the next panel, please. So this just gives you an idea of the materials that we're thinking about for this park. The bench, of course, this is a cast iron powder coated bench, which will not rust. All of our furniture has that standard. The games table, the sitting table with the actual games table in the middle. This is what I was referring to. It just adds another value of play within a park, and allows for people to use the space in different forms. The basketball net, that's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to put a quality net in there for the users. The native pollinator planting, which really gets to the sort of naturalized area. I think one of the things that is missing in this page is it's not quite showing the shrubs and some of the smaller whips, but those will also be included. The trash receptacle will also be having a recycling receptacle right adjacent to it, so there'll be two units, self-explanatory, one for garbage and one hopefully for recycling. The shade structure itself, we're going to be going with the darker charcoal tone, ties in nice with the community, we felt. Those underneath the table, those will be black and not blue. And then we have the ping-pong table, which is a solid concrete table with an aluminum, and maybe our consultant can talk about this if there are questions, but the aluminum sort of net, which I believe is a stainless steel type of net system, which is very sturdy. Next slide, please. And this just really finalizes it and gives a perspective of what the park will look like. The playground, again, to the right of this property, shade structure leading into the basketball court, and leading out until Green Lane. We tried to really look at the connection points. Obviously, the connection point being a straight run through the site really limited what we could put in here, but we think we've done a good job here by locating the main spline and then going around the basketball court itself to take you out to Green Lane. You can also enter off of the northwest corner and the southwest corner as well. The view in view 1 shows a bit of the berming. I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but it will show a bit of the berming in between the existing sort of lay-by parking that's there, as well as sort of the separation from the play, and really gives a feel like you're really in the park. And it also adds another element of seating. You know, some people like to sit on a raised surface of sod and overlook the basketball court. Well, there will be opportunities for that, as you can see in view 3. And so really this is the start of it. This is where I really would like to open this up to questions. I'm sure there are a lot of comments. I'd like to thank the team for bringing this forward. I think contextually, I think this is a good plan. We really have looked into what we want to accomplish here, and it really is looking, as we mentioned, at the ILMP and sort of the recommendations that they give, and looking at the facilities in the immediate area, which are hard to find within around 400 meters, but also what would best fit for the future. So, with that said, I would first like to ask Councillor Irish if he has any initial comments, not to put you on the pressure, Councillor, but you can always answer a little bit later. But Chris, if you want to start queuing some of the questions, I think we're just about there.
Yeah, I do have a few questions of my own, but there are quite a few in the chat. So let's get to those first, and I'll pick up the rear, so to speak.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen. That was fantastic. So the first question is from May. How was it decided to have a basketball court?
So when we first started looking at this plan, as I had mentioned, there's really a gap in the Thornhill area for a full-size basketball court. And so what we looked at multiple facilities and what could actually fit. We looked at tennis courts, which were much, the field of play itself will fit within the basketball court. But when you put in the requirements for the fencing, it just simply is too large. There's also an added cost associated with, fencing. Things like splash pads, it just simply could not afford within the budgeting for this. So really, when we looked at it from a multiple lens. We looked at it from a size perspective of facilities, and we looked at it from a cost perspective, as well as, what are some of the requirements that we're being guided by. And so that's really when we came up with the full basketball court. I hope that answers your question, but if not, please feel free to ask again.
Okay, so the second question is from Eric and Linda, and I believe you touched on this a little bit. Has a splash pad been considered?
So again, splash pads are one of those things that we would all love in all of our neighborhood parks, but there is quite a cost associated with that. And within this budget, we simply could not afford it. Even if we were to go with something as small as 150 square meter splash pad, it just simply was not in the budget. So for those reasons, we tried to provide a next best facility that would support a larger number of people, and we really felt that the basketball court would be that facility. So, if we had these larger budgets, then yes, we could look at that. But there's also space requirements as well. The water facilities require full underground servicing. cabinets, and that really butts into your budget. So unfortunately, we had to stay away from a splash pad at this park. Thank you. Good question.
So the next question is from Fiona. It's more of a comment. Happy to see there will be native pollinator plantings.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know, Derek, are you on the call? Do you want to touch base on some of the native pollinator and what the thought is? The thought is there, because I think that is a good addition that we've brought forward. You've proposed.
Yeah. So partially, it's looking at buffering that existing acoustic fence that's along that edge of the park. So visually buffering that wall, as well as helping with some of the noise. So planting that up, and to do that, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to plant native trees, shrubs, as well as perennials throughout that area to create more pollinator habitat and a more natural environment within an urban park. So there's a little bit of opportunity for exploration along that edge for kids and adults to see potential insect and wildlife along there. So
that's great. Thank you.
Okay, next question is from Pablo. Will there be speed restrictions or additional speed bumps on roads surrounding the park? There are a number of speeders test driving cars in the area due to the many automotive customization shops around, and there will be more children crossing into the road space, including my own, both on Harold Larry and Green Lane, once we have a park.
I mean, I think that's a great question. Green Lane is a pretty active roadway. I've been there a number of times over the past week and a half, and it is a relatively well-used road. I don't know if there will ever be speed bumps included in there, and that's something that we will take away as a team. I think it's a reasonable comment to think about and to further discuss internally to understand that. But at this current time, no, there's not any proposed speed bumps, but it's certainly something we'll take back and look into. I guess another thing to highlight is, Green Lane really it's a shared road, right? There's a bike lane route associated with that. And one of the ongoing sort of activities we're thinking about is really trying to bring people on bikes to this park if needed. Stay away from the cars, use the bike route maps. And one of the things that wasn't shown on the plan, which I was talking with the team today, was I really think we need to incorporate some bike racks to bring people with an interest in biking to this area. And again, we're not talking about people from too far away. We're really talking about the immediate neighborhood and how we're going to access into this park. But back to your comment, Pablo. The team will certainly look into it and understand what we can and what we can't do along that roadway.
Well, I'm going to jump in there, Stephen.
Okay.
I want to talk about speed bumps for a minute, and I'll begin by saying I'm in favor of speed bumps. However, the city of Markham Council several years ago has voted to discontinue the installation of speed bumps across the city. So any locations that have them, like Willowbrook Road, they're grandfathered, so they're never going away. But we're not introducing any new speed bumps anywhere in the city. I don't think that's right, and I do have a proposal that I've cleared with the fire chief in terms of reintroducing them in school zones only. And the reason I bring up the fire chief is that, and I have to get, by the way, I have to get a majority of members of my colleagues on council to agree to it. And I'll tell you quite honestly, the mayor is opposed to speed bumps. So we have a bit of an uphill battle even to introduce them into school zones. But what happens with a speed bump, and the biggest argument against them, is that they slow emergency vehicles. And even the fire chief, when I spoke to him about reintroducing them into school zones, he said that he would be willing to accept one. One speed bump is equivalent to a fire truck, is equivalent to a four-way stop. It's a complete stop. And of course, in an emergency, when seconds count, We want those trucks moving as quickly as they can. So I want to disabuse any notion here and now, there will be no speed bumps on Green Lane. As much as I'd like to see them, for the reasons that have been articulated, it's not going to happen. It's unfortunate, but true. The other thing, though, it does beg the question, because it's a good one. This park is going to attract people from both sides of Green Lane and even beyond, Stephen. I'm wondering if we could make a case for a crosswalk on Green Lane right near this park. It's obviously not going to stop the speeders completely, but the simple fact that if we had one, I know you're not the traffic engineer, but could you take that away and have that explored, that maybe introducing a crosswalk certainly would have the residual benefit of not just only keeping people safe as they cross the road to the park, but it would also help in some way to slow speeders.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think when we were really thinking about connections from the north, we really look at the intersection along Aline Road and Green Lane, and people walking to the intersection to come down to the park. There really is no connection from the north end in terms of the residential. There's a number of industrial buildings to the north, but the real connection was coming from Willowbrook Road and even from the south and Green Lane and coming along those streets. But I think it's definitely something we'll entertain and definitely take back with the team and see what our options are. I think, any way we can bring people across that Green Lane Road and maybe even mitigate the speeding. I think, it's something we certainly will look into. Great question.
There are, Stephen, I'm just going to interject again. There are a couple of other follow-up questions related to photo radar. Just so that you know, the issuance or the installation rather of photo radar, like you see in the city of Toronto, which I think is an excellent program and a very effective program. In the city of Markham is a regional responsibility. It's a York region government responsibility. And in fact, they are conducting a pilot. You can argue why do we need a pilot when obviously it's working so well in the city of Toronto? But in any event, you have different jurisdictions, different governments. So there is a pilot program in York region that's currently underway, and it is something that we're looking at. I'd like to, in the city of Toronto, there are 2 of those cameras in every ward. I'd love to see them here as well. I think they'd be a phenomenal addition to our safety toolkit. So we'll just have to wait for the results of the pilot and to see how that progresses. But I think they'd be a wonderful thing to have, and this would be a perfect location for that, for sure.
Great. Absolutely. I mean, speed and obviously safety is obviously our biggest concern. And with Green Lane being the main route to get to this park, unless you're within the townhouse area to the south of this, it's really going to be coming from off Green Lane. So great comments. We'll take them back to our team. Thank you.
Okay, next question is from Don. Ping pong is okay, but the ball is so light. You may want to consider pickleball instead. And I'd like to echo the comments made by Pablo.
Great question. When we did look at the ping pong, yes, it is light, but we also looked at, how to best position it. If we could go to the layout plan, Haley, if you could go to the layout. We did try and position this, or the landscape architect did try and position this as best he could that would have been protected from the wind elements. Derek, can you speak to this, please?
Yeah, so it is clearly something we need to consider when proposing outdoor ping pong, but it is an element that is put into lots of parks around the world, actually. Not so much in Ontario, but it's growing in popularity because it's a pretty small facility to add to a park that adds a lot of play value for people to have an active play feature within a park. Now, to mitigate any wind, we've tucked it into this corner of the park where it's sheltered by the wall to the east, which is the top of the page, as well as the berming around the basketball court. So we've done our best to create kind of a sheltered location for it. And truly on like really windy days, you're going to have an issue, but you would with tennis as well. So it's just one of those things on a nice, beautiful day. It's a great opportunity to come out here and play ping pong.
Thanks, Derek. And just to add to the other point there regarding pickleball, pickleball is a sport that we hear at every public meeting. It's a high demand sport that people are really interested to have in their parks. And you know, with the team, this was something that we did look at. We obviously felt that basketball was the best implement for a facility here, but in terms of pickleball. The spacing for itself certainly can allow for a pickleball court here, if not two. One of the things that we're trying to do is really look at pickleball in a complex setting. So placing numbers of them, you know, 2s, 4s, 6s. We even have a project right now underway that's going to be including an 8-court pickleball facility. So it's something that we will, I mean, we can take it back to our team again. I would like to see if there's, you know, if people are interested in basketball, if they could say that, but it's certainly the potential for the next sort of replacement of a basketball court. But at this time, we really would like to advance the basketball court for this design. Great questions.
Okay, I'm going to interject again, if I may.
Sure.
I know that there'll be as many different opinions as there are people. Basketball versus tennis versus something else entirely. I will confess, though, that of all the requests that I get, I don't get a lot, but the requests I do get for new facilities in our parks, it's tennis courts. It's not basketball. Now, I appreciate that there is a budget. It probably would be helpful, Stephen, if you shared what the budget is for the park. I think people will be surprised at the cost of a park like this.
The budget for this park is $450,000.
$450,000 to do this. Okay. So acknowledging that there are different opinions, basketball versus tennis, and arguably, you know, we're probably short on basketball than anything. What about painting additional lines and making this court space a multi-court space? Because as I understand it, Harlan, can you mute? There we go. So could we paint additional lines on the basketball court and make it a multi-use, including pickleball? And for those that have joined us this evening, we have two, if you're a pickleball player and fan, we have 2 new court spaces in Thornhill. We had some otherwise useless space behind Clatworthy Arena on John Street. And the team went in and painted 2 court spaces behind Clatworthy Arena. So if you're looking for a space to play pickleball, there's a space there too. But what about my suggestion here, Stephen, in terms of turning this into a multi-use, basketball plus some other things?
So, I mean, I think a multi-use program can exist. I think we have to be cautious when we say pickleball and start implementing nets, right? If we were to put in a net system here, you know.
Yeah, hold on. Sorry, Stephen, to interrupt. My understanding, there's no nets behind Clatworthy. My understanding from most pickleball players is they're inclined to bring their own net.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that we could certainly look into that and see how we can use this as a multi sort of facility. We are putting in multi sort of netting facilities, which incorporate a hockey net as well as a basketball net, sort of multi-use program for something as similar of this size. And we would really just replace the basketball net with a much larger sort of structure. There could be costs incorporated with that. But if it's something as simple as looking at having people bring their own nets, I'd have to certainly look into it with the team and understand how the posts work and how they would set it up. But I don't think it's ruled out. I think that the biggest thing is once we start implementing netting around facilities, that's certainly like a tennis. It just blows the budget, and we don't have enough funds for that. But when we're talking about a multi-use court, within the same footprint as this, that where people are bringing their own sort of games material, I think that's something that we can look into, and I think it's something that we should certainly support, especially because this area is so underserved with a lot of facilities. So let's bring that back to the team. Great question.
Okay, next question is from Saucy. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. If full team comes to play basketball game, it may introduce parking issues. The parking spots on Harold Larry Lane is meant for visitor parking. Was this considered in the planning?
So yes, it was considered. Just go back to my initial points about the bicycle lanes and really wanting people to activate them and use them to come and visit this site. With that being said, Green Lane is a shared road. There are areas along Green Lane where you can park, and you can enter and then you can access through the intersection at Green Lane and Willowbrook or Enid Road and come to the site. There is parking along there. It is a shared roadway. So yes, we did consider it, and we felt that there was adequate parking for a facility of this large. This is a neighborhood level park, and people will visit. Are they going to visit in the 30s and 40s? Maybe, but I really think this is for your neighborhood community. I think, when I think, I tend to want to take my kids as close as I can walk, right? And others are different, but when we looked at it from a parking perspective, we certainly considered that there was some additional parking off site of the Harold Lowry Lane. So yes, we did consider that. And I hope that answers some of your question. And if not, please put it in the comment sheets and we'll respond again. Thank you.
Okay, next question is from Loretta and Franklin. Can we have a tennis court?
So to my initial comment, so a tennis court will fit in here. The problem is once we look at setbacks from the tennis court itself and the additional fencing, it really limits us. I was talking earlier about setbacks, right? And what's an allowable setback. We really don't want to have fencing very close to roadways. And once that starts creeping into, 10 meters, 5 meters, it really is a facility that maybe we should be considering for another location. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think the next closest facility, whether it's basketball or tennis, I think tennis is closest. If we could compare that, I guess. Do you have that stat or those numbers?
Yeah. So the closest tennis court is 1.3 kilometers away.
What park is that?
That is Johnson View Park.
Okay. And where's our closest basketball? Now, this isn't going over major roads, right? Like that we're talking within the immediate area?
This would be over a major road.
Yeah. So again, back to the thought behind the basketball was really trying to use a facility that fit. Tennis is much larger, and unfortunately, it just isn't the best context for this park site. But we did have a lot of thought behind that. And I hope that answers some of your questions. But by all means, please let me know if there's any more concerns.
Okay. This next question is from Fiona. Any skateboard prevention measures planned for the park to prevent skateboarding tricks on raised bench seating, for example? So
when we say raised bench seating, I'm not sure if that's referring to the back benches itself, but typically speaking, these are the types of benches that we try and include within our parks. There's no concrete walls or concrete seat walls that can be sort of utilized for skateboarding to do tricks on. But please, if you're referring to the site furniture itself, there's really not a lot of surfaces on here that a board can sort of jump up on. But if it is a bench, these are typical benches that we put in our parks. So to prevent against a skateboard jumping onto that would be relatively hard. Only because a bench is there's room for two people to sit. So I don't know whether prevention measures you're maybe referring to, but if you want to follow up with that, maybe we can discuss that a little more.
Steve, just to add to that, inherently the design of the benches that we're selecting for this. It's a steel ribbon design, so it functions as skate guards already and doesn't allow for skateboarders to jump up and grind along the edge of the bench. It's not a continuous edge, so that's part of the selection of the design of these.
Thank you, Derek. Great point.
Okay, next question is from Clara. How about noise reduction capability, since the basketball court seems to be located so close to existing residents around the park?
We were actually speaking about some noise mitigations earlier, but Derek, do you want to answer this one?
Sorry, I missed that while I was mitigating the last one. What was it?
We're just talking about noise mitigation for a basketball court and why it was located so close to the existing residents around the park.
Right. So the basketball court where it is located is the best position within this area to create an offset from any residences, because the left side of the page is Green Lane Road. So there is no residence along that edge. If we had it on the south side of the park, then we would be immediately adjacent to that residence that's really close to the property line there. And on the other side of Harold Laurie Lane, we have a buffer of the actual street. And to the top of the page, we have the buffer, the naturalized planting buffer, as well as an acoustic fence that should help mitigate any noise created by the basketball court. The berms, as well as creating features within the landscape, are also going to help mitigate some sound travel from the court. So we really have done our best to position this court in an orientation and location that helps mitigate that impact.
Thank you.
Okay, next question is from Leo. Are you sure that the ping pong table will get used efficiently? In my experience, these types of static items can become obsolete over time. The same would apply to the games tables.
Again, I mean, we're trying to provide that extra bit of activity within a park, and one of the things that we try to do is just to refer to the table itself is, I mean, why wouldn't we try to incorporate a games feature to a table? It can still be used as a table, but it's just that added value, and it's relatively affordable to do. So we're certainly looking at ways of improving the seating experience. And to the ping pong table, I think this is a great example of providing value to a neighborhood park that doesn't cost that great amount of money. I think this ping pong table, and Derek, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's made out of concrete. It is sturdy, and it is relatively attractive. It's not going to look like it's out of place in any way or be obsolete over time. Do you have anything to add to the ping pong table, Derek?
Yeah, it's a low cost. It's about the same cost as a bench, maybe two benches. So you're looking at a low cost feature within a park that can add some play value in a small amount of space too. So we can't fit a full pickleball court in the same area as a ping pong table, but I mean, we're creating another racket sport opportunity within this park. So, and it's also like a sport that doesn't require a lot of, experience playing. Anyone can pick up a ping pong racket and ball and start playing and learning that sport. So it's a pretty good recreational opportunity that way too.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay, next question is from Edward. What were the other viable options besides a basketball court?
I think this just circles back into the thought behind trying to maybe make this a multi-use court. We'll certainly take that back and see what our options are. But a lot of the other facilities were either too large or just there wasn't enough funding available to support them. When this was first thought of, we thought, well, maybe a half court would do. And then as the landscape architects advised us, they said, you could actually fit a full court in here. And so we're trying to provide that value to this park as much as we can. We're trying to provide the best options we can within the size and the budget we have. So when we talk about viable options, we'll certainly take back this multi-use court approach and see how we can see if that can work. But really, this was the best option for this park facility, or this park itself. Thank you for that question.
Okay, next question is from Adelina. Will there be any designated areas for dogs? Many residents have dogs using to walk around on properties, grass, and maybe now once the park is finished on that where the kids will play.
Yeah, great question. Dogs, no one's to say dogs aren't allowed in parks. They just have to be on a leash, right, and follow our standards. If you stoop and scoop, right? It's the approach that we take within our neighborhood parks. This is going to be your neighborhood park, right? So if people are abusing it and dogs are running around, then there's ways of there will be signs posted where if there's any sort of complaints that are required to be processed, there'll be phone numbers to call. But this isn't an area where you can let your dog off leash. This is you have to have your dog fully leashed when entering this park. So I hope that answers that question.
Next question is from Marie. What about what about an area for just playing around, not specific sport, but anything where children can do a number of extracurricular activities in open space?
Certainly an option. It certainly is an option. Again, going back to trying to maximize our budget for what we could provide here. And so it's certainly something that if it's in high demand, we would think about. But again, we really do look at the integrated leisure master plan and the recommendations that it provides. And as part of helping provide the best services for the people in the immediate area, we also are trying to provide the services that are being recommended to us. This was being recommended to us. So with that said, that's how we have programmed this park, and it is a 0.32 hectare of a site. It's not that big, but it is a space where it can allow for some play. The hills itself, kids can run up and down them. There are areas of some open space that are a bit burned, but in terms of flat land, there really isn't a lot in this park facility itself. So, I hope that answers some of the questions. We really do try to maximize these spaces as best we can with the budgets we have. Thank you.
So the next question is from Edward. What is the cost of adding a splash pad? Is $140K budget not enough for a splash pad?
So when we look at splash pads within even neighborhood parks, we're really looking at areas of around 150 to 200 square meters. And what people don't see is that the servicing costs associated with installing a splash pad is almost the same price as the splash pad itself. And so when we look at a facility to like a splash pad facility to bring this forward, we're really looking at around $300,000 to put in 150 to 200 square meter splash pad. And again, people don't see the underground costs, the servicings, the manifolds within the cabinets, the controllers. There really is a lot that goes into it. Not to mention the servicing lines that you have to run to the manifolds and to the cabinets and to the splash pad itself. There's another component of lighting as well. These splash pads all require electricity. So when you really start looking at it, you're really looking at about 250, 350,000, and our budgets just isn't there to support it. So yeah, if we had bigger budget, then maybe we could certainly look into something like that. But at this stage, this is the best facility we could provide. I hope that gives you some information.
Okay, next question is from Ian. Can hopscotch, etc., be painted on the pathway / other areas?
So I think I'm starting to hear, multiple types of activities, right? I mean, we are providing these extra service sort of levels with the tables, with the games in the tables, and if we do advance forward with a multi sort of court feature, I think we'll have to look at providing a painted line for, say, a hopscotch, even if it's a matter of looking at pulling out there's a seating area on the, I guess it would be the west side or the bottom end of the basketball court, and really putting an area where there's hopscotch or other type of ground floor games that are relatively don't take up that much size. So I think to Derek and to Chris, I think we really need to engage in some of those activities that we can advance this sort of design without really breaking the budget on. So great question.
So next question is from Don. Thanks for the feedback. Still think pickleball is more popular than ping pong. Councillor Irish's suggestion is good, but it may require a monitor or supervisor like in gyms.
Thank you, Don. Your comments you're fully noted. We appreciate it. Again, we really would like to advance the ping pong. We think it's a part that is adding value to the space at a low cost. But great comments, and thank you for your time.
So the next question is from Jing. Would the basketball court be turned into a skating rink in the winter?
So that's a great question. In terms of the skating rink, the program that the city has is really we look for like rink ambassadors, a real champion of the community who is looking to oversee the flooding of that. Services could be provided where we provide like a hose bib or like a connection into the ground. We'd have to look at curbing around the court itself, unless a champion was willing to do it by boards. But it's certainly an easy solution by just putting in a hose bib. So I think that's something that we could look at tailoring in close proximities to a basketball court for multi-use, which is the theme I'm continuing to hear.
Yes, let's do that. Let's provide a water source for that purpose.
Okay. Absolutely, yeah. I think championing of this is it's something that's great, and I think you would have a great facility. And Derek, correct me if I'm wrong. What's the slope on the basketball court? Is it 1%?
Yeah, it'll be very minimal. It'll be 1%, maybe 1.5%, but we haven't gotten to the grading plan yet, but it's going to have to be as minimal as that.
Okay. So we'll take that comment back, but that's a great comment, and seconded by Council Irish. So I think we'll look to put in a hose bib. Thank you. Great question.
So next question is from Clara. What will the ground materials to be used in the playground? Sand? ? Can the rubber-like padded material be used? I have heard that in North York, there were incidents where some broken glass / bottles were found to be hidden in the sand in playgrounds, and they pose huge threats to young children's safety.
Great question. The material that we'll be using here is the wood chip mulch that you see. It's an accessible surface. We won't be putting sand in here. We will be doing wood chips. The rubber surfacing itself comes at a very high premium. And Derek, you can correct me if I'm wrong again, but is it not 4 times the cost of rubber of a mulch surface? It's very high.
Yeah, it's very high. I think it's even more than that.
And so again, looking at the standard we trying to provide in a neighborhood level, it's certainly a fiber mulch that we'll be installing here. Hope that answers your question. Thank you, Clara.
So this question is along the same lines from Fiona. So she's in favor of the rubber material in place of sand or mulch. Much cleaner look, and less likely dogs will pee on it.
So back again, we will be installing the rubber or not the rubber, the mulch, the 5R mulch within this park. The cost for rubber surfacing, it's just too expensive, and it's you know, it's something that we can't provide within this setting. So the rubber or the fiber mulch surface is a very good surface, and you know, it certainly will provide all the protection requirements. We do third-party inspections for fall heights and all that safety standards, and 5R mulch is an acceptable safety surface. But in terms of dog peeing, I mean, we're hoping that, you know, people are controlling their dogs and dogs aren't peeing. But again, you know, we please ask people to respect the signs that will be posted. Thank you.
The next question is from Adelina. Will there be any climbing sets in the playground area?
Sure. Do you want to, Haley, can you go to the perspective for the playground, please? So there are some opportunities for climbing that will be sort of as part of the bridges along the senior structure. I don't know if you really have to look in, but the view at the top left corner, you can sort of see a sort of a climbing structure apparatus. Derek, do you have any comments on that as part of this?
Yeah, so when we were looking into a playground design, one of the elements we were really trying to create was a circuit climbing element. So creating an opportunity not just to climb up onto a structure, but to climb around in a circuit with different opportunities. So the senior play element has overhead bars, a net, just a vertical net that you climb along, some stepping stones, and then a monkey bar setup that then links back into the actual playground structure of the senior element. And so that creates like fun opportunities for kids to play the floor is lava and other things like that. So and then with the junior play element, there's some smaller climbing features that get you up onto the play structure. But really, with all of them, we're also trying to create opportunities for inclusivity and accessibility. So finding, sorry, my family just walked past there. So I lost my train of thought. But really just there's, that's why we have the ramp up into the junior play area so that kids can get up there. But there will be also transfer stations and other things like that, so that there's multiple opportunities on all of these structures. So that kids can play together and play in different ways.
Great. Thank you, Derek.
Okay, next question is from Jess. Is there a process to oppose the basketball court? It is very close to residential and doesn't seem like people want in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, like we're presenting a conceptual plan to you. We're trying to give you the rationale why we're putting these facilities in, and really the whole point of this is to get feedback from you, the residents. If basketball is something that's totally not supported, then we have to look at our options to reduce that. It certainly seems to be a number of comments bringing that forward. And I think as a team, as a design team, we have to revisit and see, you know, what are the alternatives? Is it this multi-course purpose sort of facility that maybe isn't a full court, right? Maybe it's a multiple of sports instead of just a straight basketball court. So to that, I mean, no, there's no formal way to do it. It's through this process. But again, all these comments are being taken. We're going to be looking at, you know, what's in favor of and what's not in favor of. As I mentioned in the beginning, we want to hear all the good and all the not so good. So I think what we're hearing is this continual change of the need for a basketball. So it's something that we will continue to go back and review. But again, you know, thank you for your comments. You know, you made another point there. Let me see. That was regarding. Oh, that's the next question. I was just going ahead down to what Clara was asking. You know, in terms of the proximity to the residential properties. Basketball has a noise effect to it, right? A ball bounces. We've looked at, noise measures and bringing in berms, elevating grades, adding vegetation to help soften that. But I mean, as part of a park setting, it's not always going to be quiet. It is a neighborhood park. It's an active park. It's a park that, we want people to use. Parks that are quiet. I mean, I haven't been to too many parks that have playgrounds or an active basketball or multi-court that are really quiet. So I think the concern of the more options for sports would really be the heavy carrier of that, and not so much that it was simply too noisy. But great questions, great comments. Keep them coming in, and we will review all of this. So thank you. And I think that sort of pointed to the next question, Chris, from Clara, regarding some of the noise issues as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But great comments. Great comments. Thank you.
Should I read Clara's?
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It seems like not a lot of people are in favor of a basketball court. Can we replace it with something else? I think the plants and the landscaping mentioned by Derek will only reduce a very small portion of the noises.
I again, just reiterating. I mean, we're trying to reduce things as much as possible. Derek, I don't know if you want to speak to the value that trees have in any sort of noise mitigation or grade changes in noise mitigation, but apart from putting up more barrier walls and what are some of the other aspects that we looked at from a noise mitigation perspective, if I didn't cover them all?
No, I think we've talked about it already. It's not going to be a perfect noise cancellation to put in plantings and berms and everything like that, but these are mitigation measures that are used throughout the landscape for many purposes, from manufacturing to factories and industrial areas. These are elements that are used outside of those to help mitigate and buffer noise. So it's never a perfect solution, but they certainly help, as opposed to having a wide open landscape. And if we're putting in a basketball court here, we look to do everything we can to make it a good neighborhood park so that the neighbors actually enjoy it.
Thank you, Derek.
Okay, next question is from Eric and Linda. If some of the trees are eliminated, there could be more space for free play and running around for kids.
I think free play is always important. Again, trying to maximize the space within this park and providing some facilities. It really limited us to what was remaining. So I mean, if we are to look at it and provide open space, it's kind of getting to the use of the area where the basketball court is on a multi sort of surface area. Maybe it's not a full court, maybe it's a half court multi type of recreation, and then there's area for open play. I mean, I think all of these things will be reviewed, but again, great comment. The need for open space and open play on a grass sort of surface seems to be desirable, so thank you.
Okay, next question is from Edward. Are fireworks allowed on this park?
It is my understanding that they are not allowed. But Edward, we'll take your comment, and we'll respond through our internal departments when we get together for a review. But again, they are not allowed.
The next question is from Ian. I would prefer to see additional activities for the kids rather than a full-size basketball court.
Yeah, and reiterating the comments, I think that's fair comment to say. We will take it into consideration when we go back and review this again. Thank you. Okay,
the next question is from Robbie. Wouldn't think skating rink is a good idea since basketball court attracts a limited number of people, while skating would definitely have more people, which will actually introduce the real noise problem.
So I mean, just to be clear, I mean, if the basketball court was to be fully there in the winter months, you could use this park for recreational activities like skating. But you're not wrong to say that it brings noise. I mean, again, back to my initial point, this is a neighborhood level park, and we're trying to provide places where people can get out and be active and use these parks in an outdoor setting. These parks, it's not to say that these parks are going to be overloaded with 150 people every day, but these parks are planned to be active. We want people in these parks. We're providing these services so that people can use them. So to introduce real noise problems from adding a skating component to this in the winter, if there is a champion in the community that wishes to sort of oversee that, I don't know how that would introduce real noise problems. But again, you'd have additional noise in the wintertime. Yes, you would. People would be using the park. Thank you, Robbie.
The next question is from me. I'm getting the sense that this park space is being used to check off some boxes, such as putting in a basketball court. You noted the area has little green space, and the basketball court takes up so much of the green space. Would prefer to see playground space enlarged, for example, more swing sets, climbers, etc. Open green space for kicking around soccer ball, etc.
So again, it's not to say we're checking off boxes. What we're really doing is we're looking at real recommendations that are being brought for us by consultants who work on these integrated leisure master plans for the whole city. And we would be doing a disservice if we're to move forward facilities that aren't being recommended. And so, with that said, that's really the approach to this. And yes, again, this is an open house where we take in comments and we listen to the feedback of the residents, and we can tweak things. Nobody says that this design is certainly in stone. And again, one of the things we're going to do is go back with our internal teams and discuss what makes sense from the comments we've received. So I think we're getting a good sense of how the secondary, it sounds like the playground, we don't have too many issues with it. It is the typical size for a neighborhood park to provide around 400 meters square. But just going back again, we will revisit the basketball itself and see what we can do to incorporate a lot of your comments. Open space play, multiple play, the different types of surface play, hopscotch. We will take it all back. But we do appreciate your comments. And then secondly to that, would prefer to see a playground space enlarged for more swings. I mean, this is a neighborhood sized park. This is not by any means a small playground. The budgets for these do get rather expensive itself. And if we're going to be looking at some changes and some additional changes to the basketball court, we have to be cautious of the costs with this playground. We're certainly doing the best we can with the value, the budget we can for a park of this size, and we certainly try to stay in the limits of neighborhood service levels. So to say that we could come and put in twice the size of a playground, it just wouldn't do service. A lot of other people would just request the same thing, and so for that reason, we will be trying to keep around the 400 square meter mark. Great questions.
Okay, next question is from Eric and Linda. Why not sand? It's a good activity for children.
Yeah, I think as part of play, sand is certainly a component to it. Derek, do you want to speak to it on terms of an accessibility surface?
Yeah, so sand does not help with accessibility. Very simple. Well, in terms of mobility devices like wheelchairs, very simply, it doesn't support a wheelchair. Whereas the fiber mulch, it's not the same mulch that you buy at your local garden center. It's an engineered wood fiber mulch that is specifically selected so that it knits together and provides a surface that is solid enough for mobility devices to be used on that surface. And that's why there's an accessible ramp coming down from the curb down into the mulch play area, as well as those play features for inclusivity that I mentioned before along the ground level of a lot of the play structures, as well as with this junior play area, there's actually a ramp up onto one of the decks for the play areas. So I think, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. You really touched on the accessibility piece. So thank you.
Okay, next question is from Adelina. Thank you for this is more of a comment. Thank you for your responses to my questions. Hope our children can play here next summer.
That's our goal. That's our goal, Adelina. We plan to finalize this design within the next month and a half and really work towards our design development stage and get this out for tender. We really want to get a contractor set up for end of this year and really look at potentially get the servicing in. And when I say servicing, I really mean all the below ground work for pipes, CBs, catch basins, and all the sort of surface drainage requirements that we need. So that's our hope. We will push as much as we can to get this completed for you. But thank you for your time.
Okay, next question is from Ian. I think it's more of a comment. We are not in favor of a basketball court.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ian. We'll note that.
And next question is from Adelina. Basketball is not louder than traffic. Let's have kids enjoy the 2 months of summer.
Sounds like there's someone in favor, but let's keep all these noted.
Next question is from Fiona. I like the basketball court idea, but at the same time, I also would enjoy a variety of activities at the park that would be in the place of the court.
Mm-hmm. Back to the multi-court type of facility that maybe not a full court, but something that provides a variety of options. Okay, thank you.
So next question is from Eric and Linda. Multi-use court would be great.
Okay.
Some more comment. So next question is from Harlan. Not in favor of basketball court +1. Would the city consider to add a mini water facility for kids?
At this time, with the budget that's available, even a small facility would certainly throw us off budget. So unfortunately, because of that reason, we can't support a water facility within this park. Could you go to the perspective, please, Haley? Yeah, that provides a bit more context on sort of the overall site itself. But sorry, Harlan. I mean, it really does come down to the budgetary constraints that we're facing, and unfortunately, at this time, the smaller spot, even a smaller splash pad, there's a significant cost to it. So we won't be able to proceed with the splash pad. Thank you for your comments, though.
So next question is from Fiona. Are there designated park hours? No lighting is good, but people will get around people will get around that by bringing their own lights.
Well, I mean, I guess to answer the first question, there will be signs posted that the parks are unsupervised from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Essentially, saying the park is closed, but parks are I would say abide by those rules. So from 11 to 6, the parks aren't supervised. And then in terms of people bringing lights to the park, I haven't experienced too much of that. To really bring lights to the park to use the playground, I think a lot of people are from a playground perspective, the users are probably not there that late at night. Basketball court itself, I haven't had experience with people bringing any sort of floodlights to play at nighttime, and I really don't think that the amount of light that would be casted from Green Lane or from the secondary road to the west would support people really shooting a ball. So I hope that sort of answers those questions.
Okay, next question is from Eric and Linda. Noise will not be a great issue as there is no lighting at night. And the second part, we aren't suggesting getting rid of the court, but rather some of the trees.
Okay, we can look at that in terms of maybe how we're berming some of these and provide some flat space. Again, we are quite limited, especially with the full basketball court, if that's something we retain, and looking at additional open space. Derek, do you want to talk about maybe the orientation of this court? Certain reasoning why it's orientated the way it is. I believe it has to do with the sunlight.
Yeah, so it is orientated in a north-south direction, which is the preferred for a basketball court or a tennis court or a soccer field. And that is so that in the morning, when the sun is low, you don't have the sun in your eyes. And in the evening, when the sun is low to the west, you don't have the sun in one team doesn't have their sun in the eyes. So yes, when you're going south, the sun is potentially in your eyes for one team, but it's going to be high up in the sky and so less of an impact on the game.
Thank you. Yeah, so in its current position right now, we would be rather limited with the amount of open space. But I think maybe we revisit how some of this berming is set up. If we can tweak this in any way to open up some sort of flat area where people could kick a soccer ball or throw a frisbee, then let's certainly look at that. Thank you.
Okay, this is a comment from May. Thanks for your clarifications. Next question is from Ian. Will we be consulted again regarding the park, or will a unilateral decision be made by the city?
Yeah, we will be formulating the final decision and looking at all these comments. We will be formally responding to all these comments so that you can see our responses to that. But we do need to advance this. And like we said earlier, we try and provide these facilities that best represent your needs, the needs of and the recommendations from the ILMP, and really, from your comments, we will make the ultimate decision and move forward with the preferred design based on everything received following the comments in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Next question is from Jing. I am in favor of the basketball court. Maybe people just didn't speak up for that.
Noted. Thank you, Jing.
Next one is from Mary. How many benches / picnic tables will be implemented?
So I believe there are six backed benches on this plan. There's two there, and then just to the bottom of the basketball court, there were planned for another two there. And then there's going to be three 4-seater tables, well, 2 4-seater tables and 1 3-seater table for accessibility uses. Okay.
Okay, next question is from Don. Not sure if it is time to ask, but what will become of the wall to the east of the proposed park? I'm assuming the trees will be planted in front of the wall.
Yes. So I think as part of this, and Derek, maybe you can speak on this once I make my comment, is really we're trying to provide a vegetative buffer to really obstruct some of the view and help soften up that wall. It is relatively large acoustic wall, and that's really why we're fully sort of buffering and planting along that edge. But Derek, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that is one of the components to why we wanted to plant that area along that edge, and why there's a large number of coniferous trees proposed immediately adjacent to the fence, so that it is helping break up that wall and screen it all year round. So just trying to soften that edge because it is such a hard feature, and it also helps eliminate these corner areas. So there's a kind of dark corners along that edge And so by planting it into this naturalized play area, we're preventing kind of the opportunity for people to go back into these corners areas and bringing them closer to the middle of the park where, and again, this is a SEPTED design element within the park to make a more safe environment.
That's great. Thank you.
The next question is from Fiona. Clarification on bringing their own lights. People may use lighting from car headlights. This has been done elsewhere. Just something to consider.
I mean, I think that's fair, Fiona. I think the orientation of the basketball court and the playground structure itself sort of restricts sort of angled parking to bring that lighting. But I mean, certainly something to note when we look at this. Thank you.
Next question is from Harlan. When will the construction plan start?
So I don't know if you joined us earlier, but the plan is that we will have a contractor hired by the end of this year. And when I say by the end of this year, we're hoping that we'll have a contractor on site and really start some of the below ground works, the servicing of all the underground services that are required to implement a plan similar to this for drainage reasons, electrical reasons for that small little light, but really more so the drainage for the catch basins and manholes that are required here. So the plan to start is at the end of this year. Do I have a timeline for that yet? Not just yet, but by the end of this year, I'm hoping to have a contractor on site.
Okay, this next question is from Eric and Linda. Will there be some benches around the playground besides just a table in the shaded area?
So Derek, do you want to just speak on the Armorstone wall or the Armorstone seat wall?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's part of why we introduced that Armorstone seat wall, which is on kind of the opposite corner of the play area. So that's an area for kids to rest as they're running around on the playground. They can use it as a play feature, run along the top of it, balance along it, as well as it's for parents to sit and watch their kids from the other side of the playground if they wanted to sit in the sun or against that natural area. Just trying to create as many seating opportunities as we can. And then under the shade structure, we like to implement the table seating because it creates opportunities for snacks, picnics, things like that for parents that are visiting the playground middle of the day or something like that.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so the last comment is from Don. Thanks for the clarification. And nothing further as of yet.
Yeah, I think we're getting into the hour and a half mark. I certainly want to thank everybody for their comments. I think we have a couple more.
Yeah. So Susan Lee, when will construction start, and when do you think it'll finish?
So again, we're hoping to start by the end of this year, and we're hoping to have this wrapped up by summertime, early summer, midsummer next year. Obviously, weather permitting, and hopefully with COVID being behind us, but hopefully no restrictions on any more building. But that's certainly the plan. Start this year and have it finished by middle of next year.
So the next comment is from Fiona. Really appreciate the level of thought put into designing this park. Every small detail has been considered thoroughly. Thank you. Thank
you, Fiona. We really have tried to implement something here that we hope most people like, and thank you for your comment.
Next comment is from Don. Proposal looks good.
Yeah, thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
And Eric and Linda, thanks for the presentation.
That's great. Thank you, everybody. And again, as I had mentioned earlier, this presentation panels will be uploaded tomorrow morning, And there will be a comment sheet as well that we'd please ask that you fill out, talk to your neighbors, have them review it, have their comments filled out. We would like to put a closing date though of 2 weeks, 2 weeks tomorrow, I think it is, Chris, right? The 29th?
Yes.
And at which time we'll really be hunkering down and finalizing this plan so that we can have this implemented for next year for the residents. But Councillor Irish, if that's it from the residents, I don't know if you had any more comments you wanted to add, or if there's any sort of perspective.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Stephen, and I want to begin by thanking all of the residents for coming out tonight. Stephen was telling me that the turnout is phenomenal relative to others that the city's held in other locations across Markham. So thank you for giving up your evening and providing such constructive feedback to all of us. Thanks, Stephen, as well to you and your team. I appreciate your involvement and obvious hard work that you've put into this. I think what's obvious that's come out of this for me is that, you know, we work with some parameters. We work with the size of the land that we're dealing with here. We try to pack it full of amenities to make the most use of it for the broadest set of people. And then, of course, we can't overlook the fact that we have so much money to spend in order to bring it to reality. So I think we've struck a good balance. There's some great feedback tonight, quite a bit of it consistent. So I think Stephen knows what we're looking for, and we look forward to seeing the next rendition of it.
Yeah, that's great.
So, so thanks again, everyone. What I will do, though, is, Stephen, if you don't mind, I know that the part of your meeting has come to a close, but being as the community has me here, I can open it up to any and all questions about anything at all related to Thornhill or the city. If anyone has any questions for me, I'm happy to take those as well. I know I'm putting you a bit on the spot, but anybody with any questions at all? Anything on your mind that you'd like Lauren to answer? And you don't need to use the chat window if you don't want to. Just unmute your microphone and fire away. If you don't, that's fine too. I just thought with the few minutes that we have that I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councillor Irish, I wonder if you could talk maybe about the Shouldice property and what's going on there, and other developments, other large developments in the area.
Yep, sure. So thanks for the question. Yep, thanks for the question. I wrote about the Shouldice application in my November newsletter that was delivered to all the homes in Thornhill. But what they're proposing actually is going to be the subject of a statutory public meeting tomorrow night, just by coincidence. So I encourage you, if you're interested in coming out, to hear what the city has to say about it, and what the developer does, and then members of the community, you're welcome to. I'll tell you my view. I've lived in Thornhill 33 years. And there's been speculation about redevelopment of the Shouldice land, I'd say, every year of those 33 years. And here we are finally with an application before us. I personally think that it's too dense, the buildings are too tall, and the developer is essentially trying to introduce downtown Toronto densities into our community, and certainly a part of Thornhill where they're not compatible. That's kind of my short answer. We do need to get our head around the fact that, you know, the Places to Grow Act, which was passed in 2005 by the provincial government, in order to protect the Greenbelt, we're building up, not out. So we do need to accept that there are going to be higher densities. And of course, that's manifests itself most often in condominiums. But this kind of density is what you'd expect along Yonge Street in anticipation of the subway, not in the middle of Thornhill. So I've already told the developer they do not have my support on the application as it currently stands. Any other questions? Going once?
It looks like Dawn may have a question, Keith, regarding speeding on Green Lane.
Okay, we would like to see some thought. Yeah, it's a problem. There's no. We've been looking at it. Our roads and the speeding is actually patrolled by the York Regional Police. It's not the city's bylaw officers. Our bylaw officers can address issues like noise that's coming from the body shops or the automotive shops that are located nearby Green Lane, and cite them for noise violations and other things as they relate to violations of the city's bylaws. Our officers, unfortunately, do not have the authority to pull people over like the York Regional Police does. And I'm in regular contact with the area superintendent, Area 2 YRP superintendent, about this issue. They're aware of it, and they free up patrols when they have the resources available to us. Other mitigating factors, I don't know if you were part of the conversation earlier when I talked about speed bumps, but the city, Markham Council in its wisdom several years ago, stopped implementing speed bumps. Chances are Green Lane probably wouldn't have gotten speed bumps even if they were allowed, because it is a major transportation thoroughfare with buses, the fire halls nearby, and it slows our emergency vehicles. We do put the speed boards up on occasion, and that clock people and how fast they're driving. We find that those, believe it or not, are pretty effective. Each ward has 3, and we rotate them and move them around. When we were talking earlier about this park and people accessing it from the north side of Green Lane, one of the things that Stephen and his team are going to take away, because they're not traffic engineers, is the possibility of putting a crosswalk here, which obviously when it's activated is going to slow and stop traffic. And that may be not the perfect solution, but certainly one I think worth exploring. And it's little comfort, but it's not just Green Lane. We've got speeding on all of our major streets. It's a very serious problem. And even late at night, of course, when the windows are open, I can hear them too. It's ridiculous, and it almost seems to have been accentuated by the pandemic. I don't know if it's people with fewer things to do, certainly fewer cars on the road, and they view it as a wide open roadway to speed. But it is a very serious problem. I agree. Yeah, I see Dawn in the. I like the idea of photo radar too. I think it's a wonderful means of addressing the issue. And the region has a pilot program, and I hope sooner than later it'll be coming to us as well. Any other?
Marie has a question.
Yes, bylaw enforcement. So if someone is firing fireworks in an air without a permit and without a proper holiday, call the main number of the city, and you can call that number 24 hours a day. It's there's always someone there that can answer it, and they'll do their best to have it actioned as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, it's a little like, we get a lot of complaints for people with dogs off leash in our parks. Not everyone's a dog lover, of course, and you see a big dog, even if it's friendly, a lot of people are frightened. Trying, to have an officer there to witness it, to see it, to ticket the person, it's difficult, but we'll do our best to address it. If Marie, it's typical on some nights as opposed to others, or some days, or some times of the year, then perhaps we can set up a patrol proactively and have them laying in wait and maybe catch the people doing it.
It looks like Harlan has a question as well on the chat.
Yeah, now they're rolling in. Yeah. Okay, let me see. The 95 Green Lane question, noise and air pollution. I mean, a certain amount, I suppose, is going to be permitted. What is 90, Harlan, what's 95 Green Lane? Is it a business address or is it a home that someone's doing that from? I gotta ask because it's incredible what some people will do out of their homes. So Harlan, why don't you unmute yourself and just tell me what is that? It's a business. Okay.
It's a business.
Well,
It's a business.
Lauren, yeah. Okay, Harlan, I got it. So Lauren will take note and we'll have it looked into.
I think the next one gets
Thank
almost.
you so much.
I think the next one talks about a park item there, Counselor, and we'll certainly take back the opportunity to provide open space for people to use in all different types of manners regarding yoga, learn to dance, etc.
Okay. Stoop and scoop signs, Stephen? Yep. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There'll be numbers there to call too for the bylaw, as Councillor Irish had
Yeah.
talked.
Okay, Fiona's asking about the gypsy moths and the caterpillars. How much time do you have? Because we could talk a lot. We could talk a lot about this. Council at committee this morning was talking about it as well. You know, this is where I'm actually going to ask Lauren to jump in a little bit here. I'll provide some background. We had we knew it was going to be a problem. I identified it with members of staff back in January and encouraged them to get out in front of this. They did, but in my personal opinion, they didn't go quite far enough, quite honestly. So we did have a program where we had crews out that went around while they were still, I guess, in their nesting phase in the spring. And we published a video too for residents that it was posted to the Markham website explaining how to go about removing the egg masses from your trees and what to do with them. It was actually, I think, fairly effective, but the problem was we only had equipment that could go so high in the tree. So we were able to get a lot, but not all. And we have certain areas where clearly it's much worse than other areas. So at the moment, because of the advanced stage, the best thing that we can recommend is wrapping the trunks in a sticky tape or burlap. And apparently that traps them because they exit the trees during the day because otherwise they're fed upon by birds. And I guess they return, you know, I don't know what their patterns are, but in any event, they get stuck. And we talked today about what we would do as a city in terms of perhaps even potentially making those materials available to people who asked to help protect their trees, not just their own trees on private property, but the city's trees too. Clearly there's more residents out there who have an interest in addressing the problem than we have staff capable of addressing it all. The tree canopy is just enormous. The other thing is we're looking at what do we do next year? Some municipalities, none in York Region, I remind you, but some municipalities are actually spraying. And we've looked into it. The chemical is called BTK, and it actually is in very short supply, as you may imagine. The problem isn't just confined to Markham, it's throughout the Greater Toronto, Hamilton area. So even purchasing the best spray to address the problem is proving to be quite difficult. So Lauren, do you have anything else? Lauren's much closer to this. She takes a lot of the complaints from Ward 1 residents about this problem. So Lauren, anything to add?
I think you've done a good job of summarizing it, Keith. There's more information on the city's website if anyone's interested about what you can do as a homeowner and some of the things that Keith mentioned. You know, we're doing everything that we can, and we appreciate that it's frustrating for residents. We're all experiencing the same thing everywhere we live. So it's not just a problem in Thornhill, it's province-wide.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. There are a lot of indoor basket court in the Thornhill Community Center. Yep, agreed. You know, there are some homes in the subdivision that are doing Airbnb, okay, short-term rentals. We're actually pretty successful in enforcing our bylaws. Airbnb, the short-term rentals, are not allowed in the city of Markham. If you know of a property, then let Lauren or I know, and we'll have it investigated. I actually wrote about it in my newsletter a year ago, so it was delivered last May, June, and I can tell you, I'll just read from it so you've got it all covered. The city does not permit short-term rental accommodations of less than 30 consecutive days. So that captures the Airbnbs, unregistered second suites, or the rental of 3 or more individual rooms in a residential property. And naturally, if you suspect there's a home that's essentially been turned into a rooming house, that is, you know, there's separate bathroom facilities and kitchen cooking facilities for some of the rooms that are being rented out, then that's illegal. So let us know the address, and we've had some very good success at clamping down on them. It takes, I will warn you though, it moves slowly. It does take a certain amount of time. And so once bylaw goes and takes a look and has very good reason, we send in fire prevention officers, and we can shut the place down as quickly as reasonably possible if they're in violation of some of the fire code regulations. So just let us know. Send us the addresses and we'll investigate. Okay. That was good. Any others? Any more for Stephen and his team that you may have thought of while I was talking? Make the best use of everyone's time.
Certainly it was certainly well attended tonight, Councillor, I must say. So it certainly says a lot about the people in the area who are interested in the park space. So thank you to everybody.
I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to Green Lane there. Absolutely. It's, you know, you look at your map and you identify it on the map relative to other spaces. Clearly we need something there. So it's great. And the community's been quite patient. I think it's been like that for at least a good 5 years or more. So it's nice to see it finally come to fruition. Okay. Well, if you do have any questions that you think of after the meeting, you know how to find Lauren and I, and by all means, just reach out to us and we'll be happy to address them. Again, Stephen and your team, thanks a lot. I'll let you close it out, Stephen.
Thank you, everybody. Just to wrap up, panels will be posted again on yourvoicemarkham.ca/parks. Panels will be posted tomorrow with the comment sheet as well. And please spread the word. Have your neighbor submit comments if interested. But thanks again, everybody, and have a great night.